Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
2023, you guys, and I'm winging it. Hi, it's Jackie Cation. Welcome to the Dork Forest. That's the website, The Dork Forest, if you like a determiner. Dorkforest.com also works. JackieCation.com has all of my stand-up information. Like, it has videos, it has pictures, it has links to this podcast and to my other podcast with Lori Kilmartin. It has a merch store that has Dork Forest t-shirts. It has all of my stand-up merch and all of my CDs and DVDs. So, that's what you know about websites. There's an opportunity because we're in the new year here that you can donate to the Dork Forest. I don't have a Patreon. I don't have anything really set up, though I understand you can set up on PayPal a monthly if you wanted to. You could donate and be of to support the show. This is the 17th season, the 17th year I've been putting this stuff out. It's free, but if you have money and would like to throw me some money, boy, howdy. There's a PayPal. There is at my email address, actually, Jackie@JackieCation.com, which you can also email me and tell me how much you're enjoying the show. You can also do Venmo if you'd like, which is just Jackie Cation. No hyphen, all one word. Picture of this person, me, and then I think that's it. I think I have Zelle, but it's too complicated. Other than that, let's do the credits. Patrick Brady still in, fixing the audio all these years later. Give it up to Patrick Brady. That's what a lot of your donations support, by the way, because I like to share the wealth. And then Vilmos, he does the websites, and Mike Ruekberg wrote and sang that song, composed and sang that song with his wife now, Sarah. And at the end, he sings the Mexican hat dance, which is always fun. Anyway, I'm sure there's more to it. There's a band camp that has a bunch. It has like a stand-up storytelling album that was never released. There's also a bunch of live episodes that many of them are free. There were 200 episodes that were not pre-recorded, and I sort of culled through those, and I pulled like 17 of the best ones. There's an album collection of that, 17 hours of Dork Forest. If you run through all of the episodes, go to bandcamp.com, Dork Forest, or Google those words, and you'll find it. Anyway, there's probably more. I can't remember any of it, but you're doing great. Feel free to enjoy the show. Oh my gosh, Jackie Cation here. I am in New York City. My friend Liz still has her tree up. And but it makes for an excellent background. Welcome to the Dork Forest Rangers, and welcome to the Dork Forest, Gabe Mollica. I'm doing it right? Or did
Mollica.
I put the Mollica? Oh, God dang it. I knew I had the accent right, but I didn't get the actual Mollica.
No worries.
Are you also a stand-up?
I am, yeah. That's
Okay.
how I got started, but also
Okay.
storyteller, solo show, all that shit.
Right. So you have a solo show now off Broadway
Mm-hmm.
called Solo, a show about friendship, and it's running and it's been extended, and it's Gabe Mollica, Solo, a show about friendship, and people in New York should find it and go to see it.
Yeah, please come. If you DM me, I'll send you a promo code. And
there
it's a show, but I open by just being like, I don't have any friends, and people are like, "What? What do you mean?" And then
What do you mean?
I tell some stories for an hour. It's good.
that's
People
great.
seem to like it. Yeah, it's fun.
And it's at Gabe Mollica for all the things, right? Instagram and Twitter and all that.
Yeah, please find me. I post incessantly.
G-A-B-E.
I can feel the comedians muting me. You know when that happens?
Yes, I live that. It's GABEMOLLICA. There we go.
Perfect.
Now, all that business out of the way. Let us discuss your love of theater. The theater. And I've done several episodes about the theater. And last night I went and saw, because I'm in New York, I went and saw theater. And
what did you see?
I saw Hugh Jackman in The Music Man.
Oh, that's a good ticket.
That was it. It was a heck of a ticket. My husband bought it for me for Christmas, and he also bought a ticket for one of my friends from college because he's not here.
He's a good man.
Yeah, they were really good seats too.
Hell yeah. He's the best.
It was so good and super fun, and the kids were amazing.
Oh,
And
so talented. I was always so jealous of those kids because I grew up on Long Island, so we'd go to see Broadway shows, and I'd be like, these kids are my age. How'd they make Broadway? Like,
right, right. How did they get this work? And it had to be cronyism,
yes, of
uh,
course.
or nepotism or
Nepo
something.
babies. Yep.
Yeah, there had to be something like that happening, and you're like, no, wasn't there anyone who browbeat their own parents into making them do this?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's maybe there was. I'm sure I've heard sort of stories of that.
The kids just insisting, like, I need to go to auditions, and the parents are like, do whatever you want. Like,
No, no, I actually babysat for a woman, for a kid who's the woman. She wasn't in the industry in Los Angeles,
huh?
but
Oh
her
wow.
daughter was like, I need to act.
Wow.
And she was 7 or 8. And
Huh.
so she like got an eight, like she made her mom get her an agent,
Oh my
and
God.
and my friend Deborah, who's the mom, was like, I don't want to drive this kid to audition. What a pain in the ass. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, I'm 30. I don't want to do this either. So so you grew up in Long Island and you actually went to see Broadway? Like, did you come to Manhattan?
We would go to Manhattan, honestly, like in middle school and high school, like student trips, like it was kind of like a field trip thing where it'd be
Huh.
like, or you'd go to like a Broadway show. It's like it was on its last leg. Like we saw Rent like the last month before it closed.
With the original cast, kind of?
No, no.
Okay.
Anytime it would be like the producers with Nathan Lane, like those were always like the crazy tickets. But like you would see a Broadway show that had been running for a long time. That's when they started to invite the students to like pack it out during the matinee shows.
Okay.
So I'd go see musicals, but I started to be in musicals in like fifth grade. We did Bye Bye Birdie, and I was just like,
Wait,
that
your
seems fun.
fifth grade did Bye Bye Birdie? I don't
Yeah,
even,
I was
what
Mr.
is that?
McAfee.
What's the storyline of Bye Bye Birdie? I do
It's
not
like
remember.
it's an Elvis type character, and he's like he's gonna go off to war, and as a publicity stunt, he's gonna kiss a random fan on live TV. And so
Okay.
they pick this like random girl from Sweet Apple, Ohio, and I played like the grumpy dad who like doesn't want her to be around boys and like hates children.
Right?
And just like so fun, just like me in a sweater vest, like looking like a chubby 40-year-old, but like in fifth grade. And I was like getting
But you're
laughs. I was like, this
10.
is, yeah, but I'm
Yeah.
10. And I was like, this is sweet. I'm like getting laughs. I'm like singing. This is so fun. And when other kids like didn't love it, I remember going to basketball practice and be like, do you guys ever do the plays? They were like, no. I was like, why not? They're awesome.
Right. That's so weird that they didn't do the plays and you had plays in fifth grade.
Oh, yeah.
We wrote our own plays in fourth and fifth grade.
Ooh.
I remember we wrote a Robin Hood thing.
Uh-huh.
I'm not the hero of this story, but I think I was in no, I must have been second. It must have been second grade because we wrote
That's
this
early.
Robin Hood thing, and one of the kids, her dad made wooden swords for us. Like he made props, and they were so cool. And I tried to steal one. So
Oh,
I
prop dads
still
are the coolest.
I felt so bad. I still feel bad about trying to. I was like, "How would you let that go? You were 8," and
Yeah.
so you
Yeah, it's
didn't.
okay. You're not a bad person. It's all
Right.
right.
It wasn't. I literally I tried to steal it legally though. I tried to get her to sign a piece of paper that I was going to write a contract that
You're
it was
so
going to.
sweet.
I was a very weird child. Hi. So, and she was like, none of those kids were my friends for the rest of life. Still not friends with them. Anyway, so your fifth grade, was it big enough to have a decent sized cast?
Yeah, it was like every class, like, I mean, you would audition, and it was like a whole production. This woman, Mrs. Waring, just was like really into it. And it was like kind of like a rite of passage where in fourth grade, you'd like see the fifth grade production. And when I was a fourth grader, the fifth grade did The Music Man. And I remember
Oh,
being like, these are the most talented people I've ever seen in
right.
my life. And like they walk among us, like you'd see them on the bus.
Right. Right.
And then oh my God, and then because they was all kind of like a feeder to the high school, which did a play in the fall and a musical in the spring, and then you'd go see them. And if you
Wow.
thought the fifth graders were good, the high schoolers were,
Well,
it was
that's
like seeing Hugh Jackman. It was probably better.
I'm not going to lie to you. First of all, Jen Kirkman, I told her I was going to see it, and she said it couldn't have been better than my high school production.
That's so funny.
Because it feels so. I relate when I saw South Pacific the movie, and I had seen South Pacific our high school production. I was like,
Yeah,
I liked our production better, and you're
of
like,
course.
calm down. Like what? And
Yeah.
granted, in your case, you and all the other kids had been acting for 6 years.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, that's true. So like every once in a while we would have somebody really talented, and there's a part of you that's like, oh, like you could make an impression on like a little kid.
Yeah.
That is like very real. But also I think there was something to we weren't like on our phones. There was no YouTube. So if you wanted to see like a musical, like
Hmm.
it was like the first kind of art that's like in 3D, like right in front of you. And you
Right.
can see the costumes and the mess ups and it
The
felt so real.
it right. Oh, that's an excellent point. Because when I was a kid and when anybody did put on a play or something like that, or even our like band and orchestra, you were like, this isn't bad.
Yeah.
And I went and I saw my niece Maya, who this had to be 20 years ago. She was in the choir, and then there was also the orchestra. It was like a group high school production, right? So the orchestra
Uh-huh.
played, the band played, and the choir sang, and they were all, well, new. Let's just say that they were new.
Yeah.
But I laughed until I cried because they were so not that bad, but not good.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? There
yeah.
was just like literally, this is not Suzuki kids playing the violin, right?
They're like picking their nose.
Right. They're just
Yeah.
like, I'm going to join in when I can. It's sort of
Yeah.
the very much the think system was actually happening.
Yeah.
So, little callback to the Music
There
Man.
you go. Yeah. I'm right there with
So,
you.
Bye Bye Birdie was your first one. Were
Uh-huh.
you in most of them?
I was in I was in at least one musical from fifth grade until I graduated college
Wow.
every year.
Did you
So I got
guys
really into it.
did you guys ever do Flower Drum Song? We did Flower Drum Song, and there were no Asian people in my
No.
school. So it was a Polish reimagining by Miss Kuligowski, our choreographer.
Oh, Miss Kuligowski, shout outs to her. We know she's listening. You know what's funny? There's a long history of like schools not having the racial, ethnic, sexual, gender diversity to do musical theater because it's like these shows are based on Broadway, which is like in New York, the most diverse place in the world.
Right.
And then so like my friend Michael Breslin, who's like a genius theater person, Pulitzer Prize nominee, like truly a genius,
Wow.
was one time in a all white production of the all black production of A Christmas Carol.
What?
There's an I
How
know.
did how did that even why would they do that? And why
I
wouldn't you just go back to the all white one?
I
What the hell?
don't know. You think they'd cancel each other out. They're like, well, we can't do that.
Right. We are here with this melanin count.
Yeah.
And wow.
Yeah. And it's like the answer's right in front of you. It's like just do the Christmas Carol. It's
Yeah.
about all white people, but they were like, no, we're gonna do the black version with no
My
black people.
friend Jim Wooster was in his fifth grade in South Dakota, Sioux Falls, South Dakota,
Oh wow.
where I'm going to be this weekend. By the way, hey, comedy plug.
There you
Anyway,
go.
Snow Jam. But Jim Wooster did a the history of jazz was their production
Oh
in
wow.
fifth grade in 1977. And so they put the kids in blackface.
Oh no. Oh
Right.
no.
Not okay. Not
Yeah.
okay. And you go, well, it was 19. You're like, it's 1977, not 1877.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, South Dakota. You're like, no, still not okay. And
Yeah. So bad.
yeah, so but he has a picture of himself and he's just like, this isn't. Is there any way that I could run for something?
Yeah.
Probably.
Prime Minister of Canada, maybe.
Oh, right, that guy. So, what were the ones that you were in
Oh,
before? Yeah,
so much good. So, you know, what's funny? You were talking about like, we were talking about like the local celebrity of it all. So in sixth grade, I was Daddy Warbucks and Annie. And in
nice.
seventh grade, I was the King and the King and I. And both those characters are bald. So I
Yeah.
shaved my head twice. So for like
Wow.
years, like in my town, there's like a certain group of moms that are like, that's the kid that shaved his head.
I love the commitment to that. You're like,
Yeah.
I'm not wearing a bald cap. I'm shaving my head.
Yeah.
And you kept being cast as the 40-year-old guy.
Oh, yeah. For years and years and years. My sister used to call me Daniel Gabe Lewis, my method acting in middle school.
My brother Russ once asked me if I ever wanted Thelma Ritter's career, and I was like, I would kill for Thelma Ritter's career. Are
Of
you kidding
course.
me? Anyway, so Daniel Gabe Lewis.
So I played all the adults, and then it's funny, in eighth grade they were doing Oklahoma, and I had been like these lead parts. So I was like, well, I'll just be Curly again. And I watched the Hugh Jackman version on DVD. And I
Yeah.
was just like, I'll be Curly. He's the handsome guy. And at this point, I was like pretty schlubby. And they're like, you get to be Judd. Like, you get to be the rapist.
Oh
And that
my
was
God.
the first time in my life where I was like, oh, actually, like the secondary part, that's like where you get to have a lot of fun.
Oh, interesting.
And I, because he's darker and like,
Oh, there's a
you're
lot
not
more
the
there.
star. Yeah, there's a lot there than Curly, who just like everybody likes.
Right.
Um,
But the weird thing is you also, I mean, I took an acting class, and I've told this story before, but the acting class, the teacher, we had to go get headshots. It was like the second semester, and you had to go get business stuff. And I came back and I was like, I like this headshot. And the acting teacher said, "This is a great picture of you. This is a really good picture of you. You're going to get a lot of auditions from this picture, and then you're going to show up." And you're like, oh, and I knew exactly what he meant,
yep,
but I was
yep.
like, not out loud. He was like, out loud. I'm so sorry. Someone's,
Yeah,
if I don't say it, a casting director is going to be really mad at you.
you're
So,
you're gonna love this. So I did Edinburgh Fringe, and you have to
okay,
just pass out flyers with your face on it. And it's a really nice picture that Mindy Tucker took. I'm very proud of it. And
very
like
nice.
literally everyone was like, "You don't look like this. This guy's hot." So I'm like promoting my show, but for an hour a day, I just get called ugly by Scottish
Just
people.
one after another in a perfect accent. There's like, you're fucking, anyway. So, you're not this guy. You're
Yeah,
like,
this
well, professionals were involved. That's what, when I first started online dating, the only digitized headshot I had was a headshot.
of
The
course.
only digitized picture I had, because it was 1999,
Hmm.
1998, something like that. And so in my bio, I said, this is a headshot. Professionals were involved.
Yeah,
I look something like that.
yeah. There's
And
lighting. Yeah,
yeah, makeup was involved. I'm going to show again. I'm going to show up
yeah.
in
Oh
a,
yeah.
in my good sweatshirt. How about that? Not
Finest
cool.
hoodie.
Exactly.
um,
I'm wearing a very nice hoodie right now.
so
Oh, is
important.
this Long Island?
Oh yeah, it is. What, this is fate. Hell yeah. That's Long
Yeah,
Island.
that's Long Island. Someone gave me this
That's
sweatshirt.
yeah, wear it with pride.
Right, right. I don't know where they got it, but they said it was made in their hometown. Where do you live on this fish?
On
Go to
kind of
YouTube, you Rangers.
yeah, watch it on YouTube, and it's by like the second rib, maybe.
Oh, okay. Nice. Awesome. It's what did you take the Long Island rail?
The Long Island Railroad. And it's so funny. People are like, "Did you like hang out in the city?" And I'm like, "No." Like it might as well have been like like it was like a thing that you like.
It was a day trip, kind
It
of,
was
right?
yeah, it wasn't like, yeah, we're gonna like hang out in Brooklyn. Like truly, I did not know where Brooklyn was until like after college when I like moved to New York
Oh,
and I looked at a map and I was like, what is this?
where where is everything? Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
staying in Brooklyn, and to get out of Brooklyn is always a project.
It's a huge, especially on the weekends, Jackie, because it's gonna like the trains will switch up. You gotta like
Oh
it's
no. Well, at least the Google Maps, they're almost idiot proof
they're
these
almost
days.
idiot proof. Every once in a while you get screwed by them and you're like, update.
And right, and the other thing is I'm real close to just I've been taking like the subway out and the lift home,
That's the play.
right? Because it's only 10 days and I have free lodging for 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, this is money that I would spend on a hotel. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. That's my
And
favorite thing. When I get to stay with a friend and I like get to buy them a meal and I'm like, oh, your steak way cheaper than a hotel.
so much cheaper. And I'm speaking of food, I'm eating 2 meals a day in this apartment.
Oh, there you
So
go.
again, I'm saving another probably $40 to $60.
Yeah, that's
So yeah,
come on.
come
This is
on.
comics math. We've
This
all done
so
this math.
comedian math while you justify the fact that I don't want to go into a subway system at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, nor should
So
you. Nor should
yeah,
you.
I don't want to. All right, I'm old.
You're
I'm
a
old enough
star.
to. That's right. As Maria Bamford likes to say, treat yourself like the Fabergé egg that you
I love that.
are.
Well, so like I'm like a true comedy nerd. And so like, I you and Lori, like like been a fan since I started. And I remember I did a show with Lori one time um at Broadway Comedy Club, and I was sitting in the green room, and I just remember thinking to myself, I was like a year in, I was like, this is cool. Like this is the coolest.
Well, and it's so true. And then you're like, but we are peers, everybody.
Yeah.
I was at a party once, and it was this sort of like women comics meeting other women comics
Hmm.
or women in comedy. And it was there were production people, there were comics, there were comic actresses, and I'm standing there talking to Lorraine Newman.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, and then so a younger comic came up and was like, I can't believe I'm standing here with Jackie Cation and Lorraine Newman. And and I look at Lorraine, I was like, I think we're all peers. And Lorraine goes, yes, we are, Jackie.
Oh, that's so
And
sweet. Yeah, you need the person at the top to confirm
right.
the
Are we all on the same ladder? Because
yeah.
yeah,
We're at the same party.
we're at the same party. We all want it. We all want the same things, which is that gig. And yeah,
You know
so
what's funny? I remember when I started out in New York and like seeing somebody like, oh, like Joe Firestone did the Tonight Show tonight. That's so cool. And thinking to myself, like, oh, but I also did stand up tonight. Like we're all
yeah,
just working. Like it's not
yep.
the same, but it kind of is. Like we all kind of do the
It's
same thing every
it's
day.
comparable, like
Yeah.
I'm at Broadway tonight.
Nice.
And here's what I will say. Let us briefly digress,
Yeah.
just to say this about stand-up comedy in New York. And I do a lot of I like a hat show, man. I like a hat store or a weird bar or a weird,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I like
I
an
get that.
alti show to some extent, but I also love the clubs because the clubs pay better and there's a little bit of cred. So, and I love all stand-up, but what I have noticed about the MCs in clubs in New York is they will verbally beat the shit out of an audience for the 10 minutes that they're up.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? I think they each paid $25 to be
Yeah.
here, to be obnoxious, for you to be super obnoxious. And it's fine if they're sort of experienced comics,
Hmm.
but if they're new at all, and they've been told that, and this is what they've been shown, that's how MCs, this is their thing.
Hmm.
Literally the other night at Broadway, this woman, she had some very funny jokes, but in between that, all of her crowd work was, you look like you would rape me. You look
Oh
like you sold root
no.
freeze. You look
Yeah.
like you're a school shooter. Those are three actual quotes.
No, Jackie,
And I
no.
was like, how is anyone supposed to follow that?
Yeah.
Everyone's scared and sad now.
Yeah.
So the guy who went up first was this incredibly tall, kind of silly guy who had a little dark,
Uh-huh.
and every time he went slightly dark, they kind of leaned back from him, and
Hmm.
he was like, "No, you should know that I'm also very silly," and because he was
Hmm.
also kind of silly smart too. His name was Troy something,
Oh, Troy Bond. Yeah, he's a
and
staple.
and he's like 6'4", right? So,
Hmm.
and so
Hmm.
I could tell that he was goofy and silly and really fun, but he also he had a couple of dark, kind of little mean, that was
Hmm.
also, but not that much. He should have been able to tell those jokes and fucking destroyed, but the
Yeah.
audience was frightened.
Yeah, the host is like you're like welcoming to this party, and you kind of like need, for me fundamentally sometimes like I won't do crowd work until I've told a couple jokes because I want them to be like, this is how jokes work. This is the
Right.
rhythm of it. This is what you're
Yeah.
gonna get.
Yeah.
Because you have to train them a little bit.
Every time, because a lot of them are tourists and they just saw that, they watched Hacks or
Yeah,
Ms.
yeah,
Maisel or some,
totally.
Louis
They don't know.
C.K. show from the 12th century, whatever, right?
Yeah, no,
So,
literally that. My
yeah,
friend Renan, do you know Renan Hirschberg? He's a buddy
I know
of
that
mine.
name, but because his name
He's
is
like,
Renan Hirschberg.
yeah.
And so if you've ever heard that name, you will
Yeah,
remember that name.
yes. Like, oh, from the Old Testament, of course. He's like my favorite person to follow at the cellar is Colin Quinn, because
Okay.
Colin is not gonna fuck around. Colin is gonna tell jokes, and he's
He's
like,
got jokes to tell.
yes, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's so
He's
nice.
like,
There's
I
no
gotta work.
gimmicks.
No, there's no, I literally, he doesn't care. He wants you to, like, I don't do any crowd work. And when I do, it's always an error. It's
Yeah.
always, I've always said something inappropriate. I've like, sometimes it's nice. Well, you
Hmm.
two look like you are very handsome, good-looking couple that do it. That
Mhm.
who does they don't need that. That's a
Yeah.
pep talk. Jesus. Anyway, so what we can get back to musicals, which
I'm happy to. And this
yeah,
isn't how I think also. Big bracket, as they say. So yeah, we can talk musicals.
and by the way, I am talking with Gabe Mollica, and it is Gabe and then Mollica, and he has a show off Broadway called Solo, a show about friendship. So that's everyone should know it. It's at his name everywhere, and you can
Yeah,
check it
please
out.
see it. With so
Yeah,
many shows. We added 6 weeks of shows, which is like the coolest thing in the world. It's
that's
kind of a
so
dream
cool.
come true. I started comedy knowing I wanted to do solo shows. Like
Oh,
knowing like
really?
I saw Birbiglia and I saw Hassan Minaj and Jackie
Mhm.
Novak and all those people. And I was like, that's like I think I could do stand up and I think I could headline one day, but like
Yeah,
what I really think I'm good at is this long form thing. So I'm
yeah.
at open mics like doing like rice cake jokes and like silly like observations and thinking to myself like, does this fit the narrative? Like, could I string a narrative around this, which is not how a lot of comics work. A lot like most comics I'd say don't in this country at least.
Right. That
Um
Ed
the fringe thing,
the
yeah.
fringe thing. Yeah.
But what's cool about it is every comic who does the solo show thing, we all kind of you eventually meet each other,
Oh yeah.
which is fun because it's like Chris Gethard and Anthony DeVito and all these guys. Um, you work on your show together because it is slightly different than going up there and just doing your 15.
Right. And the weird thing they were really, really popular in the late 90s solo shows
Yeah,
and early 2000s. And everybody had them and they were it was also the heyday of the first time alt comedy sort of came around, the Janine Garofalo's and all those guys.
yeah,
And so I had always done storytelling on stage.
uh-huh.
So I started writing solo shows, and then I would turn those solo shows into stand-up bits.
Yeah,
Because the thing is a solo show is just a story of how you came up with the joke and then the punchline.
yeah,
That's all it is. And so and it's so cool that it's back now that people are doing
yeah. People
one
are into
person shows
them.
again. Yeah.
And it's funny. I'm taking the show's about 75 minutes, and today I've been shrinking it and typing out the 5 minute like, oh, what's the late night set version of this? So it's a
Yeah.
completely different muscle where
Yeah.
it's like and like premises are
But
getting so tiny.
so much material.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think I did three 30-minute shows or two 30-minute shows. I tried to write the third one. It became less in favor. There was a lot of mocking in the early 2000s of the solo show. I'm sure it'll
That's
come
right.
around again because they'll be like, do you have cancer? Then we don't want to hear about it. Did you have
Yeah.
a miscarriage? Oh, that's not enough.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, fuck you.
Yeah.
I was just going to talk because I did one about my dad and all of my brothers and my
Uh-huh.
uncle. And that one is sort of the chunk, like literally, I've been continuing to write that my entire career.
Uh-huh.
And then the second one was about my mom and my stepmom and my grandmother and my sister. And then the third one was going to be just about my siblings because I have
Uh-huh.
four brothers and a sister. And I'd sort of cannibalized them for the first two. So,
Of
or
course.
the best stories already anyway. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, what's
yeah,
fun, I mean, just like as a young comic, what I recommend about it is that it's the first excuse you have to be like, I'm doing a half hour where it's
yeah,
like, it's a show.
yep.
And like before that, like in New York, like you're doing 2 minute open mics. And suddenly I'm like, here's this half hour thing I wrote.
Anybody want to watch that? And watch.
The answer is no.
My husband came to like me workshopping that second half hour,
Uh-huh.
and he came to like the third or fourth workshop show to it,
Uh-huh.
and I can't believe he married me. Like he brought friends, and I had never done any dating, so I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to let anybody who I was dating come to a show.
Yep. Yep.
So his friends and him came to the show, and he tells me he's told me many times that they said, are you sure you want to date her? She sounds like a mess. And I'm like, there's more punchlines coming. I'm just saying right now it's mostly the kind of the sad sack part of it. And
That's
but
so funny, Jackie, that you think you could save it with more jokes.
I can always save it with more jokes.
There's more punchlines coming. I promise I'm normal.
I promise I will have processed this by the end of this run.
That's so
And
funny.
because I don't know how people, like you, who writes plays? Is it guy who yells, who was on the Daily Show. He's got a name.
Lewis Black.
Lewis Black.
Yeah, he was
Thanks.
a Yale playwright and then
Yeah.
switched to stand up.
Yeah, so we're playing password. Lewis Black. Lewis Black. He wrote plays, and when I think about writing plays or novels,
Mhm.
I think it's a lot like writing solo shows. Is that you are processing whatever nonsense sort of life is thrown at you,
Yeah.
and trying to make it compelling, or trying to make it funny, or trying to make it at the very least interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, what are your favorite musicals?
So I make a distinction actually in my show between there's musical theater and then there's Stephen Sondheim. And
Oh,
so
pardon me.
yeah.
Doesn't he do all musicals?
Yes, he's
Aren't
on
they all?
musicals, but I mean like I'm a musical theater fan, but really at
Okay.
my core, I'm a Stephen Sondheim disciple.
Okay.
In that like his musicals, so like he has a bunch running right now actually. Into the Woods is on Broadway. Sweeney Todd is coming up on Broadway with Josh Groban.
Oh, wow.
And Merrily We Roll Along has Daniel Radcliffe in it right now.
Okay.
And that just moved to Broadway. So he's kind of Sondheim, even before he died last year, was like having a cultural moment. I don't know if you saw like Marriage Story with they sing a Sondheim piece in that.
I think I just saw some documentaries. I literally I saw
yes,
some
yes.
short documentaries, or
HBO.
there was a lot of, especially when he died, there was a lot of sort of retrospective. Let's get
Mhm.
everybody who will talk about Sondheim, which is everyone.
Which is everyone.
yeah.
Yeah. And you know what's so funny? Like me being like a vocal, like I'm a comic and I love Stephen Sondheim. Like sometimes I'll meet a comedian and we'll start talking about it, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, like I kind of like Sondheim." I'm like, "You? Like you're like a
Everyone?
yeah." He finds a way, because I think if you find characters that are sad enough,
Yeah.
the medium doesn't matter, you know?
Right. And I have to say, I think even Fran Lebowitz liked Sondheim, didn't she?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And she doesn't like anything.
I
She's
know.
like Mikey.
It's
And-
so funny you say her. She doesn't like anything. I invited her to my solo show, and
Oh.
she doesn't have an email address, so I found her home address online. I like triangulated it, and my letter to her says, "You might not like this, but it would be cool if you came."
It'd be cool if you didn't like this.
Yeah,
If you could somehow publicly not like this,
that
please
would be
come.
great. Yeah,
It would send others to
It would.
probably like it. I know how much you hate Nathan Lane. Please come. And
Yes, Jackie, your references are so good. Yes.
it's I didn't see the kid that I babysat for who wanted to be the actress.
Uh-huh.
She had bootleg VHS of that's the only time I ever saw Sondheim. She
Oh,
loved
interesting.
Sondheim when she was 11.
Yep,
So I saw
yep.
Into the Woods, like a grainy VHS of Into the
Yep,
Woods.
of that original cast.
Bernadette Peters?
Oh, she's so good. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's incredible.
I get her mixed up. It's not, I get everyone mixed up, but I mean, the, who am I thinking of? She's a lot like Bernadette Peters, but I think who played in The Princess Bride, who played Billy Crystal's wife? Password again.
Yeah. Robin Wright's in The Princess Bride, but not her.
No, who played Billy Crystal's Have Fun Storming the Castle.
Oh yeah. I'm not gonna know it, but I know who you're talking
right.
about.
It's right. I don't know why we're gonna go over. These are very vital. This is a vital question. Miracle Max's wife was Carol Kane.
Yes,
So
Carol
I get
Kane,
Carol
yes.
Kane and Bernadette Peters mixed up. Neither one of them want to hear that, but I'm sure they respect each other's work.
They must.
At Broadway the other night, I was sitting in the back against the wall, and a guy leaned at me and said, "You know that you kind of remind me of Roseanne Barr." And it was before I went up, and I said, "Not out loud." And I was like, I don't need to hear that. She's
Inside
nuts. And her stand-up was just okay.
Yeah.
So let's never discuss it again. Anyway,
Yeah, people sometimes think you look like something, you remind me of something is a compliment, and sometimes it's not.
No, I said that thing last weekend in Detroit to some poor dude in the front. Again, crowd work, not my jam.
Yeah.
You look like a young, and then I said very good looking Fraser Crane. Nobody wants that. But he had the same sort of receding hairline and carrot haircut, and he was wearing a turtleneck. So I think he knew.
I wish we lived in a society where that kind of clip could go viral. It's like comic calls man Frasier.
Right. Kelsey Grammer logs in.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I have seen Into the Woods, and
One of
I
my favorites.
loved Into the Woods. I was
Yeah.
like, I had never even heard of Sondheim until
He's a good gateway because it's the
it,
fairy tales. It's accessible.
that's it exactly. I need all gateway. It has to be gateway for me when something big like that comes into the, because otherwise it's all the Music Man and Guys and Dolls and
Yeah, and those are great too. Those that's how I got into Sondheim first, and then for me, it was like once I got into Sondheim, I was like, oh, I can't go back. Like I think the Music Man, like purely in terms of enjoyment, truly is my favorite because it's just so charming.
it truly
And
is.
and I have, do you see Sutton Foster also?
Yes.
Yeah, so I have her
Yes.
book behind me about knitting.
Oh, she wrote a book about knitting.
And my sister got it for Christmas, which I think says more about me than it does say about her. But it's so charming. They're so good together.
They're really fun together.
You leave feeling like amazing. You're like, these two should just, they could do anything.
Right. And they still seem to be having fun. And these are the last 2 weeks of the run.
Yeah. They're having a blast. But when I got into Sondheim, like for me, the Sondheim one, like you ever see Sunday in the Park with George?
Nope.
That's
what is that one?
That's a musical. Do you know the painting in Ferris Bueller? It's Sunday in the afternoon of Sunday on the Island of La Grande Jatte. It's a George Seurat painting, and it's pointillist.
Oh,
and
yes,
it's famous.
I know the painting. I hate Ferris Bueller.
Okay, so that is fine, but it's famous in partly because like they zoom in on it in Ferris Bueller and you can see the dots.
Yeah.
The musical is about the painter of that painting, and all the characters in that painting are the characters in the musical.
Oh,
and it's a musical about art. It's a musical about like making this thing.
Yeah, good for him. Holy smokes.
Yeah, won the Pulitzer Prize. Like it's like a really ambitious, it's like way too ambitious. And people think it's pretentious. And I'm like, I'm fine with you thinking it's pretentious, but it's really beautiful. And
you know what? That pretension, he nailed it.
He nailed it.
Yeah.
Are you saying that's not accessible, Jack?
Right. It's not everything is accessible. I'll tell you something about monster trucks. They can sometimes be fun and oftentimes be boring, but so they're not accessible to everybody.
Yeah, I like that analogy a lot.
Yeah.
And as an artist, like you'll appreciate this. I think the most famous song in that show is called "Finishing the Hat." And it's a character, George Seurat, singing about how long it takes to just do the hat in the drawing. And it's kind of like writing a joke. He's like, I'm missing people's lives. I'm missing romance, but I'm just focused on this one little piece of art.
Yeah.
And you take a comedian or a playwright or a novelist to see it, and they're like, I know that feeling. You're looking at life through the window. You're focusing on your craft.
Right. And the world is burning around you.
Literally, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So is there any of his, because I've seen Sweeney Todd, quite honestly, too many times. I get it.
That's not my favorite. It's not my favorite. Yeah.
It's fine. I mean, the thing is Andy loves Sweeney Todd. I think my husband, I think it's his favorite one.
Mm-hmm.
And it is funny and it is dark. And if it's done correctly, it's kind of hysterical. Like if the interpretation of Sweeney Todd kind of has to be, you have to believe it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it was the way Sutton did Marion the Librarian, as opposed to the movie, which is Shirley Jones.
Yeah.
It was this sort of more the darker, more sophisticated kind of version of it.
Mm-hmm.
And Sweeney Todd, I think, has to be played sophisticated.
Totally.
Yeah.
I saw the last version of it. They do it in a pie shop. So the people in the front two rows are like sitting at tables eating pies.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it's immersive. I know it's pretty gross. But like Sondheim's kind of like Shakespeare in a certain sense, where you can adapt it and you can make these kind of bold choices with it. Like they just did Company. They just switched the lead. They gender bended it and turned Bobby, a boy character, into a girl character. And it kind of like changes the sexual dynamic. It changes some of the other genders. It's like, and Sondheim's so kind of important to musical theater that people are like, yeah, let's try it. Like, let's see how it goes.
Yeah. What I liked about this version, because I have an actual question. First, well, let me do this question first. What's the Company about? What's Company about?
Company's another great one. Company's about Bobby, historically a dude character, turns 35, and he's a womanizer, and all of his married friends are like telling him about marriage. and it doesn't
Okay.
really have a plot. It's more of like you meet this character and he has this kind of marriage, and you meet this character and he has this kind of marriage,
Okay.
and there's a lot of wisdom in it, and it's very New York. It's like the most New York thing in the world.
Is it singy? Is there
It's it's
music?
singing. Yeah, it's kind of like it's honestly kind of like 12 scenes, and then like
Okay.
there's a song that ends each scene. It's kind of like
Okay.
a series of vignettes about marriage. And it's great.
Huh.
It's in my top three. It's really,
Oh,
really great.
all right. Um, and are there like because the movies that I've seen are Into the Woods and
Hmm.
Sweeney Todd. Are
Yes.
there other Sondheim movies? Did they
That
make
is
movies out of them?
that is an amazing question. So right now they're working on a Merrily We Roll Along. That's going to take like 12 years to make. Like they're doing it like or 15 years to make. It's a Richard Linklater. It's his next like
Okay.
before sunrise, before sunset, um, after series, but he's doing it with Beanie Feldstein, and they're recording like basically like a scene a year for 15 years, kind of like Boyhood.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Because what's Meryl is Merrily does it take place supposedly in linear time?
so it takes place in reverse chronological order. So they start out as a friend breakup, and the movie ends with them becoming friends.
Oh,
Yeah, and it's about creation. It's about a playwright and a lyricist and a playwright, and then their friend who's a journalist.
okay.
And it's a show, but it's honestly a show about friendship. It's one I've been listening to a lot as I write my show,
Right.
because they're talking about collaboration, and they have a falling out. And that one, I think the music is for me more fun to listen to than actually watching it. But if you go right now, you can see Harry Potter in it, so that's always fun.
Oh, right, right. Yeah, yeah. That's Daniel Radcliffe, who I think was another kid who needed to act.
Yeah,
Because that guy clearly is like, I'll do whatever you want. What do you need
yeah,
me to do? You want me to play
yeah.
a villain in a Sandra Bullock movie? I'm there.
I love when a rich guy just is like, I'm gonna do Weird Al.
Yeah, I'm gonna be Weird Al, and I'm gonna be the most ripped Weird Al
I
that has
know.
ever existed. I'm
Uh,
sure Weird Al is like, yes, please. I would like
yeah.
to. Yes, it must feel like that Lenza AI thing to see Daniel Radcliffe play
Yeah.
it. You're like,
Yeah.
oh wow, that would be great if I looked like that.
Yeah.
And what was so what I liked about um because you were talking about the gender and sexuality swap
Hmm.
um last night in the Music Man, and I don't know if this is because of Hamilton or because of Black Lives Matter or because of whatever.
Hmm.
They it was all races were in the Music Man.
Yeah.
They just
And
cast actors. They just cast people instead
yeah.
of cast white people
And
or
could you
black
imagine
people.
being like, the show takes place in Iowa? It's just like get talented people on the stage. It's like
Right. I'll tell you something else. I've been to Iowa and not everybody is mean and not everybody is a rube.
yeah. Yeah,
So
exactly. Exactly.
how about any number of things have to be to sustain your disbelief? How about that?
Totally. We're in New York City.
Yes.
Like cast the best actors. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You have and it just there's everyone needs work.
Yeah. Yeah. Get these. They need their SAG cards and shit. Let them.
Right, right. Just audition human bodies.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like the quartet was made up of all like even different ages, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like one of the guys was older and the other three looked like they were in their 30s and 40s and yeah.
You want to know a fun thing about me? I used to sing in a competitive barbershop quartet.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking to Gabe Mollica, awesome dork, fat, multifaceted dork, Gabe Mollica. A show is called Solo, a show about friendship. You were in a competitive a cappella barbershop quartet.
So I was in an a cappella group also, but the
Okay.
barbershop quartet in college, I had this music professor who was like studied like classical music, whatever, but his like side hobby was he was like the chairman of the Barbershop Harmony Society, which like there's different regions of America. And so you compete to like win your region. And then if you win that, you get to go to international competition.
Wow.
And so we won like the collegiate division of like Northeastern America.
Okay.
And we were supposed to like we qualified to sing in Las Vegas at some like, and by international I mean US and Sweden.
Exactly. I was like, so you in Canada? What's happening?
Yeah,
It's
there's no like Chile, like
right. I mean, the whole world is not involved.
yeah.
It's
But it
okay.
was fun to say international.
It
But so
was. Yeah.
barbershop is really like technical singing because like when you play notes on a piano, you can like be in tune or be out of tune, whatever. But with barbershop, like it kind of becomes even thinner margins. So you could be like, go, I need you to cycle down like a half tone. So it's the same note, but like the frequency is like a little different. So the
Do
tuning gets
you
like real crazy.
do you sing in your solo show?
I don't, but people have brought it up to me where they're like, it might need to
I'm bringing it
happen.
up. I'm bringing it up. You may want to expand briefly and just do a little song. At the end of The Music Man last night, for no reason, they added a scene where Sutton and Hugh are tap dancing
Oh yeah.
just because they know how to tap dance.
Let them cook.
Exactly. That's exactly what it felt like.
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. The so there's company, there's Sunday in the Park, there's Merrily We Roll Along, there's Sweeney Todd, there's Into the Woods. What else is there?
Um, I think there's a really for people who are like kind of new to Sondheim, there's a
Yes,
thing you
please.
can listen to called Sondheim on Sondheim, which is a show I saw on Broadway.
Oh,
And if you listen to it in order, they kind of like go through his career and different musicals, and like he talks between the songs a little bit, and he'll be like, my first show was a flop. Like I wrote it in high school, and then it'll be a 30-second intro, and then like there's a little clip from that song.
okay.
And so I love that one as an intro to people because you
Is
get
that
his
a
whole career.
is that a documentary or
It was a show that they did on Broadway, and
okay?
then they released. It's now like on Spotify. You can just like
Okay.
listen to the
Oh, then
album.
you can just listen to the album. Okay.
So I really recommend that because I think it's certainly cheaper than going to see a musical.
Yep.
And the other another fun one is Assassins. Your listeners might like Assassins. It's about this one. It's I'm not as familiar with it as I am some of the other ones, but it's about people who have assassinated or attempted to assassinate presidents, and it's
I
from their
know
perspective.
I know this one because Sarah Vowell
Uh
went and
huh.
saw it at the beginning of her assassination vacation book. She describes going to see assassins.
Yep. Yep.
And then
It's a
later in the book, she saw 1776, uh,
sure. They're
also a
related.
musical.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, that one's in like the Sweeney Todd kind of like genre in that it's like overtly dark. And I was
Okay.
not raised as like a horror kid or like that wasn't the stuff I was into. Like I'm kind of more into like the sweeter ones or the more like
Yeah.
dramatic ones. But for the people that love assassins, they're like, this is the one for us. Like,
Okay.
yeah,
But
has a
it's
dark bend
great that
to it.
he's got different genre. I mean,
Yeah, he
the
never did the same thing twice. It's pretty cool.
right, like Out of the Woods literally feels like a sword and sorcery tale, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
what did she say about Prince Charming? Or Prince Charming say about himself? I'm charming, I'm not.
Yeah, it was supposed to be charming, not sincere.
That's it, sincere. Like there's so many great lines. Like
Yeah.
the writing is just spot on. It's essentially like not to it belittles them to call them witticisms
Hmm.
because of how smart those lines are. So
Yeah. I will say one other thing for your listeners to earn my full nerd credentials, but I used to write Stephen Sondheim letters. So I have like 5 or 6 letters from him.
oh, he
Um,
responded.
and he responded, yeah. And at first it started as a fan thing in high school.
Hmm.
And this was back in the day before, like when he died, there's like an Instagram account where like they'll post your Sondheim letter, and
Yeah.
like the South Park guys had them. Like anybody who wrote to him had them. But this was when I wrote to him in like 2010, 2011, like there was nobody like I didn't know that he was going to respond. I didn't know it was a thing. So I like
Right.
found his address on a Broadway blog, and he wrote back. And then I got a like a grant in college to study Into the Woods. We like studied the music of it with a professor,
Okay.
and so I started writing him like technical questions, like how did you put it
Yeah.
together, like. And in Into the Woods is all these little like musical motifs that he like uses over and over and over again.
Okay.
So I got all these like technical letters from him, and he would always type them out on a typewriter and then hand sign them.
Okay. So all the letters are typed out so you can read them. And then he signed it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I think I appreciate as like the guy was also a teacher. Like he is this like kind of like towering, at times pretentious figure, but like he's also responding to fan mails from chubby boys from Long Island, which I appreciate.
Right, because he might have been a chubby boy from Long Island,
Yeah,
and at one point in his career.
Yeah.
So I just watched. There's a American Masters thing on PBS right now. Dick Cavett and talking about Groucho Marx.
Oh, great.
And I loved Groucho Marx when I was a kid, and I've loved Dick Cavett my entire life. Even though some people don't like him, they're like, he seems like thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, and I was like, betcha he was most of the time.
Yeah.
And so it's probably might have been hard to be around him, but I think he was awesome. I really thought he was super smart and great. But there were this hour and a half sort of clips of Groucho Marx and Dick Cavett together. The many times Groucho did Dick Cavett's show, it was, the last hour. Well, the first half hour was great, and the last hour. Well, at a half hour, he says something like he introduces his wife and daughter in the audience. They stand up, take a bow. He turns away from them and says to Dick Cavett, still on mic, still on television, but beautiful family. You'd think I wouldn't cheat. And you're like, Jesus Christ, Groucho. No. I know. And then like the next hour is sort of peppered with some weird Groucho Marx is superhuman, right? Like he is an alive, flawed human being. Yeah. And he's like in his 90s and he gets some 35-year-old actress who ended up being his like lover and secretary. She ended up killing herself when she was in her 40s. Yeah. But he was long dead. But But I guess she got a lot of shit for hanging out with Groucho. But I mean, when you think about some of these old guys, right? I would hang out with Mel Brooks.
Yes.
I don't know that I would
TV
let him
dinners
touch
with
me.
Mel.
But are you kidding me? I mean, if you'd be willing to, I'd go get him a cup of coffee. I'd get him a cup of coffee. I'd make him,
Yeah, you have some roast beef, you watch some TV. I feel like it would be great.
Right. And so I think about Sondheim, and I mean, I think he was like, I do think people think he's pretentious, and they do think that he was also a whole person too,
Totally.
And so he gets, everyone gets to, I mean, it'd be nice if, like most of the people I know, the flawed person that they are doesn't mean that they do sex trafficking, right?
Yeah,
they're not, it was, and I don't know.
They're a little gruff.
Right. They're just, they're James Corden. They're shitty to wait staff, right?
Yeah.
You're just like, that's not cool. And perhaps you will have learned at this point that yes, they're at work and you aren't. How about that?
Yeah.
Why don't you cut everybody at work some slack?
That's so funny and true, because like I'm reading this new Sondheim book that just came out. It's all conversations with him. It's by DT Max, called Finale. And at one point, the journalist, they're at like some, like not the Met Gala, but like something at the Natural History Museum. And he's like, yeah, like I love the new Sunday in the Park with George. I cried during the second act. And Sondheim goes, yeah, everybody cries during the second act. And I was like,
well, and it seems like at that point he's heard all the comments.
Exactly.
And he's just like, anything new? Did you get anything new out of it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
No? Yeah. All right. The second act is very sad. Congratulations for understanding the narrative.
Yeah. And so it's like, is that like the kindest thing that anyone's ever said? Like, no, it's like, it's almost funny. So you kind of have to embrace, like, I think that's like all artists are like, they're whole people. Like, that's what makes them great.
Yes.
And we have to embrace that.
Yes. And it's okay.
Yeah, even if that is
right?
like, if we said that about one of our jokes, we'd be like, oh, you cried during my closer? Like, everybody cries. Like, we'd be like,
everyone
this person's an asshole.
That.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. Oh, you thought that was funny? It's like when anyone says, I love to laugh to me.
Yeah.
I have to stop myself going, everyone loves to laugh.
Yeah.
What's happening?
For me, can I
So
tell you a red flag I have in a dating app when they
yeah.
say, "What are you looking for?" and they say, "Someone to make me laugh." I go, "Make you laugh? Like we're gonna laugh together in the good relations? What do you mean, make me laugh?"
Right. Yeah, I want you to make me come. That'd be how about that? How about
Yeah,
that's too much information. I'm so sorry.
yes.
It's but I was just like, that's actually quite funny. I'm writing that down. I'm
Yeah,
so
it's good.
sorry.
Yeah, no, please, it's
Can I
yours.
use that?
Oh
Okay,
my
so
god, yeah.
thank you.
Oh, if I
uh,
see you doing this, I'm gonna be so happy.
oh,
You know
just
what
be proud, just be
Yeah.
psyched. It's and I appreciate all riffing turning into stand up. But I will say, because I was at the club the other night, and there are because I don't think Sondheim was a monster, right? I mean, you
Mhm.
don't. I don't think there's going to be a reveal that he was.
There's a fun the only story, there's some rumor that there was like he was like into twinks. And at one point they were at a party and somebody like went up to his room and went into the wrong door. And there's like a little like twink like tied up in his bed. And they go, "Steven, what's going on in your room?" He goes, "He asked me to."
Oh, is that a bondage? Somebody
Yeah,
pretends
like
that
a
they're a kid.
playful, yeah, like a
Okay,
playful kind of like, or a
but
twink is just kind of like everyone's consenting. Yeah, I don't think
everyone's consenting. Everyone's of an age,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I don't get the sense we're gonna get that scandal from him. Yeah.
Right. Well, right. Because I mean, I'm just like, I if someone is 18, that is just a bad choice of an adult. And
Yes.
the 50-year-old who's dating that 18-year-old is probably gross, and I'm not inviting them over to the house.
Yeah.
But if you're dating a 15-year-old because her dad said you could, we don't talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
You and
No,
I got nothing to say to you, buddy. So
totally. For me, it's like a vibes thing too. I'm like, I'm 30. I'm like, I'll talk to a 24-year-old. I'm like, oh, we couldn't date.
right. Well, and you know that arbitrary rule, half your age plus 7.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So I mean, it would be 22 that you were, which feels super young,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Way too
that
young.
you would be able to date.
Yeah.
And me, it doesn't feel old enough. Like
Sure.
it's a different thing where 22 is way too young, but
Yeah.
half of what 25 30, it would be like 35,
Yeah.
whatever. So because I'm 57, whatever that math is,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, it would a 35-year-old. I'd be like, well, this is enormously flattering.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, when my father sometimes talks about how 40 is too young for him and he's 85 and I'm or
Mhm.
too old for him.
Yeah.
And when he was in his 70s and dating some very young women in their 30s and whatever, I would say,
Yeah.
Dad, here's a rule. You can't go out with anyone who doesn't know how to work a fountain pen. Because that's how you grew up, working a fountain pen.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
he's like, I don't want to talk to you right now. All
Yeah.
right.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
but he is talking about 35-year-old women who have made, that's
Yeah.
them making weird life choices. You do whatever you
Totally.
do, whatever. And
Totally.
so but I do love that about that because I genuinely think we need our heroes, right?
For sure.
And there is some responsibility. You wanted to be famous, shitty
Yeah.
asshat. How about you keep it in your pants and are some sort of example of
Yeah.
a halfway decent human being. You don't
Yeah.
have to be perfect. I'm not perfect,
Yeah.
but there are 19 people who give a shit of what I'm like.
Yeah. Who would be disappointed
Yeah,
if something absolutely. That's a really good way to think about it. It's like, don't let down your friends. Like,
right.
don't be a shitty person.
I asked for this. I literally
Mm.
went on stage with the Brit. And so part of the social contract of that
Yeah.
is that I'm not going to be gun running. That's
Yeah.
what, that's not where it's all going to,
I'll tell you what, when you do a show about friendship, Anthony DeVito was giving me shit for this. He's like, you're not going to get women in your DMs. You're going to get dudes being like, do you want to watch football? And that's like kind of happened. I was like, oh, okay.
Right. All right. Well, I guess I said I wanted friends.
Yeah.
That's interesting about the friendship thing. We're getting close here, but I would say this is I think friendship for me, like I have probably 100 friends
Hmm.
and they're all up here. I mean, there's like the deep sort of friendships where we talk about real things.
Hmm.
those are harder to have. Those are harder to sustain.
Totally.
To be that honest with another person.
Yeah. And so there's a piece of my show where like my mom, my best friend, like my oldest friend, Nick, where my mom goes, "Oh my God, his sister's going to have a baby. How does he feel about being an uncle?" And I was like, what? Like, I have no idea how he feels about anything. Like, that's just like not the kind of male, like for most dudes, like that's not the kind of friendships we have.
Right. You were all raised in some sort of weird, broken, you should stab him before you hug him kind of thing.
Yeah, truly. Yeah. And so like that frame. So I always had this like kind of like love triangle story, me, best friend, girlfriend story.
Yeah.
And for years I would kind of tell it and it would do well, but it wasn't until I started like putting the lens of like, this is a whole show about friendship, not just this one story that happened a long time ago. Mm-hmm. Then everything started to like make sense. Because I agree with you. Like it's funny when you do a show where you say this is a show about how I have no friends, like certain people are like, but what about me? And I'm like, no, you gotta see the show.
Yeah. I'm not saying, I have one of my best friends here in New York is like, we're best friends. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, but we're best friends. I was like, I think I have several people that she is literally, I don't have a best friend. I have many friends that are some of the best people I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And thus, yes, we are best friends. But Maria, I bought her I was at an ornament shop. I don't usually buy crap. Like I was like, throw this out for me, the old Mitch Hedberg joke.
Yeah.
So I don't buy a lot of I don't buy a lot of gifts for people because I think, and it was a dumb gift, but I was like, it's almost Christmas. And then it was an ornament shop where you could make an ornament. Mm. Like you could get an ornament personalized. Mm-hmm. And it was an ornament of a piece of cheese and a noodle. And it said best friends on it. And so I had it, Maria and Jackie 2022. And I said, you are I am the cheese, you are the noodle. And we are friends. And but that specifically spoke to that kind of friendship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Quite honestly, I am the fucking cheese and she is the fucking noodle.
Yeah. Yeah. Different combinations. Like with a certain friend, like I'm the talkative one. And with a certain friend, I'm the quiet, shy one. Like it's always context based. And I think it's in the Amy Poehler book where she's like, best friend is a tier. Like it's a tier of friendship. It's not a one person. I was like, oh, that's a good one.
That is good. That is good. I have several people on that tier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is good for you, Amy Poehler. Come on. Gabe, it has been an hour, just so you know. Gabe Mollica. It felt like 10 minutes, but I did get to hear a lot about Sondheim. I've done other episodes about musicals, even other episodes about Sondheim. I will eventually see more Sondheim, but because of it, I saw Into the Woods, or I saw, what did I see? I saw something because of the last Sondheim one I see. So I'm hoping to see something new now.
I'm going to go back and listen to that one. That's exciting.
Yeah, it's neat. But thank you so much for doing the Dork for us. Everybody, follow Gabe Mollica on the socials. It's Gabe Mollica. It's at Gabe Mollica. And the show's what theater is it on?
It's at the Soho Playhouse, which is the same theater. They had Fleabag and Nanette, and lots of cool stuff has been there.
Oh, that's so cool.
And you're invited anytime, Jackie. And I'm doing it twice in LA also, the 27th and 28th and 29th in LA at the Yard Theater.
Oh, the Yard. Okay.
Yeah.
Guys, do this solo, a show about friendship. Thank you so much for doing the show. And Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?